we are going to be wrapping up season 1 in 2 weeks, and we're going to be stepping back over the holidays to set up for an awesome season 2 that we're going to start recording for in January. We're going to be mixing in conversations about doctrine and Christian history with guests who have a personal experience or faith journey that they would like to share. So this is a call for you to reach out to me if you're a pastor, minister, church leader, author, or teacher and would like to join me to talk about a specific doctrinal or theological perspective. Nothing's off limits. That's who we are here. We're exploring every aspect of Christianity. This is a place for people to turn to if they have questions about any and all Christian doctrine or historical reference. And so next year, I would especially love to feature a mini-series on Christian history, all the way from Pentecost, after Jesus' resurrection, to today. This is also a call for you to reach out to me if you have a faith journey, personal experience, or if you just want to hash out ideas, questions, and thoughts over the Bible with me. Along those lines, in addition to a mini-series on Christian history, we're also going to do a mini-series on parenting and marriage next year. So if any of these things seem like your thing, reach out by emailing me at admin@exploringmychristianity.com. But if this isn't you, but someone else popped into your mind as soon as I started describing this, please ask them to reach out to me as well. And together we're going to continue to explore Christianity. All right. That's the admin stuff for today. So our guest today is Jared Anderson, who's a singer, songwriter, worship guy from Colorado Springs, Colorado. In his words, he has a gorgeous wife, Megan, and 6 amazing kids and 27 chickens. So we recorded this a few weeks ago. He may have 50 chickens by now. He may have 25, but at the time of recording, he had around 27 chickens. After college, he started playing the piano and writing songs with New Life Church here in Colorado Springs and the Desperation Band in the early 2000s, and he is still trucking on a mission to expand people's imagination about God as well as his own. During the last few years, since 2015, Jared's also jumped in to create a program called Christmas This Year, which specifically supports an organization called Friends of Club 21. Friends of Club 21 is a organization that supports people with Down syndrome and the families of people with Down syndrome. It's just an awesome organization, and it's such a cool performance too. He features people with Down syndrome in the actual performance itself. It's a great way to jump into the Christmas season. So many of us just take for granted that when we go to church, the structure of the service and the production of the worship service is going to be the way that we expect it to be. And so Jared and I, we spent some time here talking about what it was like for him being on the leadership team and being a worship pastor and making sure that people were able to connect with God's love through the worship and through the singing, through the music when they went to church. We also talked about what it was like to be a young leader in the church and the process that he's gone through over the years when either his expectations were missed or to deal with conflict within the church. We also jump into parenting a little bit. This was a really fun episode for me to talk about, and I think you're going to enjoy it too. So like, subscribe, share with anybody else who'd be interested. I'm glad you're here. It's been a experience so far getting into podcasting.
Yeah.
Because I am people oriented.
Yeah.
And, that's what I do for a living. And I'm used to sitting across from someone and saying, what kind of needs do you have in your life? What concerns? What are you experiencing on a regular basis? How can I make you feel better about them?
Mm-hmm.
And podcasting has been so much more technology, and the audio video side of things has been, I imagine it could be something like making music where you're creative, you have the music in your mind and in your heart, and then you have to learn all of the technology behind it too.
Yes. Well, in music, it's like the music is such a small portion, and the marketing and the storytelling and the crowd like momentum gaining and all that, all the testing and oh yeah, it's it's it can take the fun out of it if you let it, you know.
So why'd you gravitate towards Christian music
Sure.
as opposed to, a career or more of a career in just any other type of music? And did you think about exploring broadly a career in music?
So I went to this is that's interesting you ask about that because I loved music and I didn't know what to major in college, and I thought I'll just start with music until I figure it out because I enjoy it. I'll get a degree, but I probably won't do any of this. My first semester there, I was like in with all the music nerds, you know, performant violin performance majors and tuba players, and I was like, none of these people are getting a job. Like none of us are getting a job doing this ever. Like, and I was like, either I have to get into writing or I need to go to a conservatory and lock myself in a practice room until I'm the best. And um, so I thought a lot about writing because I was studying music history and these incredible players, no one had heard their names, but the composers and the people that wrote differently made their mark.
Mm,
And people knew Mozart and Beethoven because they brought something fresh. And I was like, that's what I'm going to have to do. And I didn't think I could do it. I had this plan to. It's funny going back into these, but I had a plan to. I was going to move to Eastern Europe because I thought it was cool. And I was going to teach English in a university. And I was going to just gather players and build like a small orchestra. And I was going to compose for that orchestra on the side, like not as a job, just as a hobby, and do it for fun because I didn't want the pressure of having to eat,
yeah.
as a result of music. And so that was like my loose plan.
So
And
you
I
were
ended up
gravitating more towards classical music.
definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah. I thought pop music is just, I don't know, everyone's doing it. Everyone's trying to be cool. I don't have a shot at that. And I thought, um, and I didn't like the technology piece of it, to go
Yeah.
back to your point. I didn't like the plugins and the all the crazy stuff they could do with audio. I wanted to take musicians with a real instrument set up in a square, in a town with nothing plugged in
Hmm.
and move people. That's what I was like, that's where I want to press in. And I end up moving back to the Springs after school and helping out at church, which I thought was kind of dumb. Like, I'm like, we're
Everything's
just like,
plugged in.
we're everything's plugged in, and
Yeah.
this is like weekly karaoke.
Okay.
Like, we're just leading like little songs that are like kid songs. They're sing along songs. Like any monkey can do this. And I had so much like judgment and yeah, just beef.
Well,
I
that's
was
that's quite a, with so many other things that happen in life, the reality is so different than the vision so
totally.
many times. And, I think the difference between someone, 60 years old sitting there at the edge of a bar just eaten up with resentment
Hmm.
versus someone who has found fulfillment and purpose
Hmm.
is how you react when you're 25 to life saying, no, this is reality
Wow.
versus your vision, you know?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It was so hard to let go or adjust or accept. Yeah. Accept that this is what it is. And that's actually part of where the songs came from. I wrote this song that said, I need you, Jesus, to come to my rescue.
Mm-hmm.
Where else can I go? And it really was from like, I just don't feel like I'm supposed to be here. Like, what am I doing? This doesn't make any sense to me. And I think you opened some doors for me, but I don't, I don't want to be here. I don't really like this. I don't think this is cool. This is like what my parents are into. I
Yeah.
don't want to do this. And at the time, there wasn't cool people doing worship music. Now there's a lot of cool people, you know. It's kind of hip, but yeah, it was learning to shed that resentment and lay down some of that maybe high-mindedness or just dreams. Yeah.
Did you start Desperation Band as a result of feeling, you know, limited within the playing a church setting?
Sure. So interestingly, not really. The This guy came on staff that wanted to start a youth conference,
Okay.
and he asked another guy, Glenn, who's part of Desperation Band, if he would lead worship at it. And the church had just gotten a studio and was starting to record. And he's like, man, Glenn, could you make a record to help promote the conference? Because you've been writing these songs. And Glenn didn't want to do a record by himself. He was
Mm.
just like, oh, that's too scary. So he asked John and I to help kind of contribute to lead with him. And that's what made the band that's the band that's how the band formed was we were writing a few songs and we needed to lead at this conference and they wanted to make a record to help promote the conference.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you tour with that at all?
No, we released it. We were all on staff at the church,
Mm-hmm.
and the producer that we had done a lot of work with a record label, and he shared it with them, and they liked it, and so they picked it up and released it, and that's when my song "Rescue" was on that started getting some traction at some radio stations and getting a little buzz. So we never toured. There was no plan, zero plan. It was we released this thing, we were part of the church, and then it caught. And we started getting calls to go do some events. But we'd maybe go out once every 4 to 6 weeks and do an event. Other than that, we were just at the church.
Yeah.
And it happened organically, and somehow people knew about this band when we weren't really promoting it.
That's what happens with good music, I think.
It can.
Yeah.
It's an organic grow. But yeah, we definitely would not have formed a band. We would not have lasted in a band. We would have killed each other. It was like we did not sign up to be like together. It kind of was like, I guess we do this now.
Yeah. Well, what was your faith like at that time? Coming out of college, going into a
Oh
situation that
man.
wasn't realist, that wasn't necessarily the way that you saw it. It's a, it, like I was saying earlier, I think it's a formative experience for 25, 26, 27. Mine was 30 when I got divorced. It was just
Yeah.
a formative experience. But what were you going through as far as your faith goes?
Yeah. I mean, I was. I was kind of untangling. I grew up my parents had both been through a divorce before, and each had a child from a previous marriage before they got married, and I was their only child, the
Mm-hmm.
only child of that marriage. So they were like very passionate about their faith, and we were at church every time the doors were open. We had we had individual devotions in the morning, family devotions at night. We memorized chapters of the Bible. No TV.
Mm-hmm.
It was like maybe 30 minutes of sports or news. No movies, really like no non-Christian music. So pretty tight. And so I went off to, and we moved around a lot because my dad built houses. So he'd build a house, we'd move. And my mom was passionate about missions. So we'd go on missions trips. We lived overseas for like 3 years. So very transient. The only thing that was really solid was the church. I switched schools a lot. Um, so when I went to college, it was like, oh, 4 years that I'm just going to be in one place. This is amazing. And when I came out and I'm on staff at the church, and this is the church I grew up in, like I'm like, this is not, I'm not having a great time. Like this is, I was like still discovering who am I. I'm like, I went to college, I didn't get married. So I was uh I was a little bit lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my some of these songs were my like cry for help, like where is this going? So there was a lot of discovery. I mean, the but I will say the religious community or the church community, our leadership loved the fact that we had a thriving youth group and a huge youth conference and a following. We were getting national recognition, right? That like brought so much satisfaction to leadership. And looking back, I look back at it negatively because they were putting me in a position I was not ready for. I
Which
had no
was
I had no business. I mean, I was an associate pastor when I was like 21 years old. I
okay.
was like, I'm I don't even know who I am. Like,
Yeah.
why are you giving me this title? The platforming, the the recognition. I just was even though I grew up in it, I wasn't I wasn't ready
Yeah.
to lead.
Yeah, especially when your intention or your vision for how adulthood is going to go is so different than the
Very.
way it's turning out.
It
That
made
in
it
and of itself too is also why I felt like it was important to have a platform that explores different doctrines, experiences, walks of faith too, because uh, even within the church, there's so many people who have a broad or generalized idea growing up inside the church of their faith and the doctrine, but have never taken the time to explore why the doctrine is present or why certain things are done the way they are. And this is the case, I think, across denominations and across
Mhm,
different churches. But Christianity has such a message of purpose,
mhm,
and it's not as black and white as it appears,
mhm,
and as it's presented so many times within the churches themselves. And I think that the individual churches also get so caught up in the perspective that they're ingrained in every single day that the actual messaging that's presented to the people that need to hear it the most is not something that is done in a way that resonates, if that makes sense.
sure. I think it quickly becomes cultish, honestly, because you attract a community based on a common belief and based on Christ. And then once that culture is successful, it becomes like self perpetuating. And I felt like it became a competition and then it very quickly becomes destructive. That's where when I was 27 is when our pastor exploded in moral failure, and that was kind of like a 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in the community here, there's the church you're referencing has a very widespread reputation just here, and I know that it's also national. But
It
everything that
was, yeah.
happens at the church makes local news.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, but you weren't necessarily completely emotionally tied in to the church. It doesn't sound like, even though you were working there on staff, were you?
Oh yeah, I mean, the pastor had done my wedding.
Oh
You know,
man,
it was all I grew up there. I definitely um I was treated kind of like the artist because I was kind of given a free pass, and um yeah, I was a little bit of a poster child, even though internally I was very conflicted with what I was doing, and didn't maybe I was maybe given leadership that I like almost refused. It was like, I'm not leading that. Like I don't know what this is. So it really destroyed, or I really struggled to have friends. It very made me very isolated because I'm in a more of a competitive environment
yeah.
where people are like taking it real seriously, and it's the gospel and it's how you live your life, and then it's not only your job but it's your friendships and it's your families involved, it's your community, but it's also your paycheck. So it's very that's why I say cultish, because it just wraps it becomes your world, you know. And not real helpful
Well,
for
it's
health.
interesting now. The church has had a little bit more, not to the same magnitude, some upheaval around the pastor who's been there for the last few years and has also, I'm not gonna, I wouldn't say it's strictly a cult following, but there is definitely an intense connection from a lot of the people who have attended that church with the pastor
Huh.
who recently resigned
Yeah.
around some controversy there. But a couple of my young employees have been attending that church and they don't go anywhere now.
Yeah.
And after that, and
Sure.
because they were so connected to that pastor. So that's going to happen in a church setting sometimes, not to the magnitude that it has happened at that church, but definitely there is going to be some turnover in the leadership and the people who the congregants look up to. So, did you ever in that process question your faith or your
Oh yeah.
job, or how did you process your way through that mentally?
Oh man. Yeah, it just kind of wrecks you. Like, what you're just really unsure what to do and how to. I don't know. Maybe sometimes you're just faking it. Like, I don't know what else to do, but um, I definitely knew through that I had to untangle. I so the pastor exploded at the end of '06. Then it had the shooting in '07, and in '09. I moved my family to Nashville for a year. Didn't feel like that was home. Came back, but knew I wasn't supposed to go back on staff. And really, we moved back in May of 2010, and I never went back on the staff. But but I didn't leave. I didn't really leave that church until 2020. So for 10 years was what I would call like an untangling of um, of my role, and I wouldn't say an untangling of my faith, but I would definitely say a reformation of my faith, and how the culture of Christ inhibits or reflects the image of Christ. Sometimes it's hurting, sometimes it's helping. And so through a lot of like getting mentors and older people and going to counseling and reading a lot of books and study and work, right? To uh to keep the meat and spit out the bones. So to really here's what happened for me, bro, is my family, and this is how I would summarize it. My family set me up to give myself to the church, and the church set me up to give myself to the evangelical Christian movement. And all of it was disappointing. All of it was unsatisfying, or couldn't deliver, or yes, couldn't give me what it promised. Yeah.
What was it promising, and why do you think it couldn't give you what it was promising?
Well, we make big claims, man. This is where you can come and give your life, and you're going to find freedom, and you'll find new life in Christ, right? That's what we're selling. Like, we're selling it hard. But very often we say that we're going to care for people, and we don't. We say that we're going to treat people with dignity, and we end up abusing them. We make promises that we can't deliver on as a community, and that's really destructive. So I'll give you an example. I had this, um, it was within like a 3 hour window, and it was at one of the youth conferences, and I was in the green room right before it was the dinner was being served backstage for some of the leadership, and I'm sitting across from the pastor, and he's like, "We totally want you more involved here. We love your voice. We want you to lead our writers, and we need you back here. We love you. We want this." Okay, so reaching out, like drawing me in kind of hard, right? 2 hours later, this is the final session of the conference. They make an announcement at the very end of the closing session. Okay, here's all the guests and speakers for the conference for next year, right? And I've been a part of this thing from the beginning. I'm not on staff, so my proximity is maybe not as secure as it's always been. But I watched the video, and I'm like, I'm not anywhere. And I was like, there it is. I felt this like torment. I was like, we just had this conversation, and all my friends run this thing, and nobody told me that I'm not going to be on there. And I can hear like, hey, bro, I know you've been a part of this. We're going a little bit different direction. We're not going to have you as a guest this year, right? Little heads up. I can handle that. We're all
Yeah.
adults. But it was the mixed message, right? I heard like, we want you, we want you, we want you, and then I also heard, we don't want you.
Yeah.
And it's, I can hear either one, but I can't hear them both together.
Right.
And that was, I had to do a lot of work around that. That was totally a mixed message.
No.
And when when we send mixed messages, that's the beginning of abuse. That's the beginning of like, I love you, I love you, I love you, smack,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Wait, what? So safety comes when we tell people where we stand with them and we let them know what's coming next, right? That's what our culture, that's where I found like, oh, I'm I'm a mess here because I'm not relating and I
Hmm.
can't quite figure it out. And very often in those environments, you tend to think you are the problem.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I must be doing something wrong that I'm not accepted or celebrated. That may not be the case.
Yeah. There's so you're saying that churches are promising you're going to be accepted, you're going to find a community, you're going to be encouraged, and missing on the delivering those specific promises.
I would say that, and I mean, those are broad strokes,
Yeah,
right?
they are. Yeah.
I would say that in Christian leadership, we often proclaim much more than we deliver,
Hmm.
right? And that's the we're religion is like the art of sales, right? It's the art of moving what you believe in and drawing you in and announcing a better way. Like that's what we do. It's what we eat for breakfast, right? But can we do it with one another? That's the true test.
Hmm.
Not can we proclaim it to the world and fill the seats and fill the account, you know?
Yeah. Well, I also think that this goes back to what I was saying about churches getting caught up in a specific perspective and
Mm-hmm.
then not explaining it or communicating or building around something that resonates with the purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think also what you were just saying is filling the account or filling the seats
Mm-hmm.
is churches, then the leadership within the churches also get so focused on, and I talked about this with another podcast guest a little while back, but they're so focused on the idea that people come in because they're suffering or because they're hurt or traumatized by life in general, things that happen to them, and they're looking for something to make them feel better. And
Mm-hmm.
so then that happens, and the message is very directly and overtly you're going to find peace through a belief and following Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And that may work on the front end for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
but living a life through a belief in Jesus Christ and actually being part of the body, the
Mm-hmm.
church, is so much more than that. And I think that I could keep going back so many times to Second Corinthians 3, where it's talking about you are being reconciled, you're being renewed in the image of God. And so the piece after the beginning, if someone's coming in specifically because they're suffering in life or they're traumatized by life or hurt by something, you may be able to talk to them about the peace that they're going to find within the church. But then everything else, the whole rest of their life is the church still has an answer for that. We've got
Mm-hmm.
to we've got to include that in the church.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is also, so I would say that in this case, the acceptance, the promises that we're delivering, part of it's on the people that are there to get involved and
Mm-hmm.
to make connections and to pursue Christ, to pursue God, rather than just looking for Him to be delivered to them while they're sitting in the pews.
Right.
But also, my wife and I just ended up landed at a church, and we were specifically looking for a church that would say, we want everybody in the church to get involved. We want everybody in the church to pursue the fullness of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And also then accepts everybody when they want to do that. And so we've been visiting quite a bit, and we had come back to the church that we landed at a few different times, but there's a sermon preached saying, here's all the different ways you can serve. And
Mm-hmm.
we've been in churches our whole lives that have preached something like that, or who have expressed that in the announcements or the messaging or whatever it may be. But then when you go to try to get involved, the church says, no, you're supposed to just sit in the pews and get Jesus delivered to you on Sundays.
Right.
But so after that, I went on, I volunteered, signed up, I talked to the men's ministry pastor, and within, I don't know, less than 48 hours, I had gotten, we want you to do this. We want you to do that. Here's a background check. Can you do this? How would you feel about that? And so it's just such a different environment of you want to you want to be the one who helps deliver Jesus to the community as a whole, rather than we think you're just here to get him delivered to you.
Sure. It is. I mean, I almost look at that as like a national story as well. Like as we're talking, because like that whole messaging around bring us your tired, bring us your downtrodden, bring us the scraps, right? Bring us the needy people and bring them to our shores, and we'll take care of them. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Um, that's a very American message, you know, to we want to be inclusive, we're the melting pot, but pretty soon you find like there are those that belong and those that don't, and it matters how you play the game. And I think if we're not careful, our Christian communities tend to reflect that rather than uh, rather than an alternative to that.
Yeah, and I think that that's exacerbated with social media and
Hmm.
so many Christian communities and churches viewing themselves as influencers. Uh, and so I think it would be easy. This is just my perspective from someone who sat in the pews
Hmm.
or sat in the seats, that it would be easy for a church to get extraordinarily caught up in the image that they're presenting. So,
Yep.
I mean, you've been in leadership. Have you noticed that? Or,
Man, I mean, if you want to break it down, it's a tough business, right? Like, how do we keep the lights on?
yeah,
How do we, like, there's so many different offerings. People can go anywhere. Loyalty is low, but the need is high. I'm sympathetic
yeah,
to the demands, and um, we all want to be in that growth mindset. We all want to make a difference, and we get caught, you know, licking the blood of our own tongues at some point, right? So that's, I mean, that's the call of Christ is the narrow road, right? Like
those
it's tricky. And on one hand, you have the Christianity and faith can be um, an invitation to moralize your worldliness or to condone your sin, right? Jesus, there's grace for everybody, fresh grace daily delivered here. Come and you can have Christ as well, you know, with all your stuff.
mhm.
And on the other hand, it can be moralism, like fix your life, look right, follow the rules, and everything will work out. So you have this slippery slope on either side of, oh, we're just using Christ as an excuse to be worldly, or we're using Christ as a weapon to beat you into
Hmm.
submission, right? And that's why it's a razor's edge, and health is somewhere in the middle and down neither slope.
Hmm.
And that is, um, if it's not easy.
I think you're hitting it right on the head. And I think that also some of the declines in membership and the closing churches. I
Hmm.
mean, there's supposed to be 20,000 churches closed a year in the United States
Wow.
for, I'm not sure exactly how long, but for the foreseeable future.
Hmm.
But it's because of those two things. And I think that Christian culture in the United States has responded to humanism over the last 150 years by trying to present one of those two things at, on the very, very extreme edges, though.
Hmm.
And a lot of church leadership and the cultural shifts within Christianity, in at least the United States, has felt like that's their marketing strategy to bring
Hmm.
people in the doors. And the idea of bringing people in the doors too, I think for a lot of church leaders is very, it's intentional. I'm not saying that there's wrong motives. They believe that people need Jesus
Sure.
and need a faith in God, but they're viewing that as how do we bring people in the doors of the church as well. And so that has become, I was talking to one of my friends a few months ago, and he just could not fathom the idea that God has created us out of love for a purpose without a heavy influence of, if I don't, then I'm going to be subject to the wrath of God. So that's one side, right? Just just beat down with you're going to hell if you don't do this. It's going to be a lifetime of torment. God hates you. You're evil, sort of thing. Or the other side of the spectrum, like you were talking about, and both of those things, you're trying to fill the void left by both of those approaches. I'm using your example now. You're trying
Yeah.
to fill the void by both those approaches with what I was saying of the influencer approach or the social media approach or the getting distracted along those lines. But I agree with you. I understand that piece, but I mean, in my business, there's a lot of attrition, and the consumers generally approach us with price. And our best bet is to really focus on what they're inherently concerned about, their needs, what's going on, how to make their life better, the meat, the substantial stuff. And if we simply just focus on what they're coming to us with, the price piece, we end up losing them down the
Sure.
road. And so I can use that. That's a great analogy for what we're talking about here, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to be more than transactional, right? That's why it's not just a list of things to do, it's a place to be engaged. And we've got to we preach relationship, and that's the call, is to do relationship better than we have done it,
Mm-hmm.
um, for the sake of our kids and the generation we're a part of. So yeah, it's kind of our leg of the race to run, and maybe size and national influence is not the right marker for success.
It could be, as long as there's substance involved in it too. You know,
I understand. Well, like I don't know, Eugene Peterson, who I'm a big fan of, the guy who translated the Message Bible. has a pithy saying, more people, less truth, right? So the broader you go, the more you water down. Like that's a little bit of the Joel Osteen method, right?
Mhm.
Feels like God just wants to be your best friend, and you know he's a good old boy, and you can trust him. And um, so, and then you also have on the flip side the you'll never make it. You know,
Yeah.
you can be good enough for God. So I don't know though. I guess what in the in my in the faith journey, I would say just it's been a reshifting or a remodeling of what success means.
So what does it mean to you now?
Great question. I mean, it is like the healthy soul is the ultimate worship. The the connected heart and the awakened heart is the ultimate gift that I can bring to Christ, and the ultimate dignity of his love for me is a fully awakened life. And that's physically, mentally, spiritually, and in relationship with others. So, and and maybe the biggest thing I'm trying to do is I don't want to send the mixed message. I don't want to invite you in and then push you out. Like
Mhm.
that's not how I want to be treated. I want to treat you with like, yeah, with the level of safety. We know where we stand, and this is what we can expect, right? So, trying to be a solid friend, trying not to be competitive, and celebrate people where they're at. Um, that's the work that I'm applying myself to. Um, I guess as a result of finding other experiences or being led. Honestly, I would say like led astray in places. I'm trying to recover that for my life and my family. Yeah.
Which is a promise that is the promise from God of his love
Right.
is
Yeah.
something that is going to be delivered regardless of
Mhm.
the promises in the church.
That's right. Come
Uh,
on, bro.
so
Preaching.
so are you have you approached parenting differently than the experiences that because you mentioned a few minutes ago that it's kind of the path that we're blazing for the next generation of Christians and the next generation of people who need to become Christians too.
Yeah.
So what do you have you intentionally done anything to help your kids explore their faith, become more solid in their faith, have a relationship with God that's personal to them that is any
Yeah.
different?
I think for the first decade, um, they got, I got to a point with my kids where they would go to church and be like, Dad, where's the green room?
Oh,
And I was like, oh, shoot. I jacked them up. Like, that's not what you should be asking for when you go to church is where's the green room? They got over familiar with what it means and what it, I guess, the trappings and not the heart of it. And honestly, like, I don't, I didn't force my kids to um, read the Bible or memorize it. I'm trying to cultivate like a genuine curiosity about our story and the story of faith. So, and then also haven't made it a requirement for participation. Like, there's no, you're not gonna please me, or you're not gonna get more of my heart based on your religious performance or based how how into it you are or how much you love youth group doesn't change my love for you or my acceptance of you. And so I've definitely like loosened the reins for my kids in that kind of achievement spiritual achievement side. but I feel like I'm more engaged in who they are and what they're into and what they're thinking about, and letting them and providing that safe place that they can have a meltdown and and cry and sometimes even hate my guts, and
Yeah.
you know, that sort of thing, to where I want to maintain that relationship. And I know in my own family and in leadership too, there became a wall between relationship, because I knew what the transaction was. I knew what you wanted from me, and I knew what success meant in your eyes. And so therefore, you don't get access to my heart, because you and I are just playing a game.
Okay.
We're just playing a game of performance, and you're just checking in to see if I'm performing. And that's not where my heart's at. And so I really want to chase where my kid's heart's at, not where their performance is.
That's a
So
great point.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you're failing classes. Maybe you don't get access to the car. So what? There's a lot of other part of life that we can still do together. That's not a huge deal to me. Like, you don't want to go to church? Fine. You want to read the Quran? Great. Awesome. Let's read it together, right? Like, it doesn't, my love for you isn't bugged by where you're at.
Yeah.
I'm not bugged by, like, you want to dance with your, like, in your little, with your little potty mouth friends. So what? It doesn't, like, I don't, it doesn't shake me. I'm not shaken by that. Like, my love for you is so much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, what do you want to talk about toilets? Whatever, right? It's not my favorite thing to do, but I'll go there with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think also it is like, I guess, getting caught on the parenting thing. It is, I think the best way to parent is to love my wife.
That's true.
It's the
Yep.
best. It's the biggest gift I can give them
Yeah.
as a parent, is if they can watch the mutual laying down of our lives for one another. That's that's number one.
Yeah. I
I
agree
don't
with
have,
you.
I don't know that I have the wisdom. I don't know. I'm, relatively smart, but I'll probably miss it, you know. But the best thing I can do for you is cultivate a mutual self-sacrificing love
Yeah.
in this home. And that's the loudest voice I can have in your life.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And that is where you can truly live out God's love that you hope is the foundation of their faith, anyways. And
I
so,
have a I have a big thing in that I come back to in my work, um, and in events, but I keep coming back to show don't tell,
mhm.
and I think that in the family dynamic, that is the show don't tell. Like,
Yeah.
if I can love the one that I'm committed to for life, that's the biggest gift I can give
Yeah. And that is so much easier said than done.
them.
The
Tell me, bro.
one of the primary causes for my divorce was that when we had a baby, my ex-wife and I forgot to pursue each other, forgot to love each other. And it wasn't intentional.
Mhm.
But it happened because we weren't intentional about continuing to pursue each other and to love each
Mhm.
other like God loves us.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's a classic story. It happens every single day
Mhm.
across the United States, across the world.
Yep.
But um, now my wife and I go out of our way to try to intentionally model that love for each other as an example. It's, it's for us for sure, and it's to glorify God, but it is such a strong example to our children who are seeing how we treat other people on a consistent basis. And I want my son to have such a deep relationship with God that he knows how First John feels, right?
Mm-hmm.
He can read
Mm-hmm.
First John and say, I'm not just reading this analytically or objectively. I'm actually feeling this in real life.
Yep.
Because so if that's the goal, you're absolutely right. That's the example, that's the model that I need to make for him. We've been every night during our bedtime prayers, we pray together, my son and I, that God allows other people to see his love through the way that we treat them.
Cool.
And but you're right, it starts with our relationships with our spouses.
Yep.
Um so real quick before we wrap this up, I wanted to go back and ask you just your experience, if you can share a little bit of what, people come to church, they sit down and start worship band kicks off or starts off with a prayer, or some churches will start with announcements, and we oftentimes take for granted
Mm-hmm.
that it's structured. What is it like? I know this is a little off topic from what we've been talking about the last half an hour, but not very many people know or understand. Do you have a rehearsal ahead of time? Are you
Sure.
coming up with the songs yourself? You rearrange songs to make them more jazzy, which is incredible. I love those worship nights that you're
Yeah.
rewriting and rearranging some of those songs. So
Mm-hmm.
what are we not seeing when we're sitting in the seats and just did there for an hour on Sunday mornings?
Sure. I think it's like it's like going to a restaurant for a meal. There's somebody back in the kitchen thinking ahead of what your experience is going to be like and trying to set the table, set the ambiance, and not really so that you like love the food so much, but that you love the experience, and hopefully it's an enhancement to your relationship with other people and your love of life, right? To go and to worship God in the context of other believers does something. It reminds us of what we were made for
Mm-hmm.
and what we're going to be doing eternally, and to kind of think through that process. Like I'm not um I'm not the source and I'm not the object of affection, but I am helping connect two parties. I'm helping cultivate that relationship. And I can't take people where I haven't gone myself. And I can't love people more than I love myself. And so, really, um, this is kind of building a muscle of, just like we plan a vacation for our kids or an evening with our spouse. It's planning a, what is this going to feel like? How is this, and where are we taking people? And um, so yeah, it usually starts with you're thinking of themes and songs, or songs that are in your heart, or songs that connect with people. It's a little bit of that, something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue.
Yeah.
Trying to taste the rainbow a little bit emotionally. Um, Simple things like major keys and minor keys give off different emotions and different time signatures, and so we're taking people on a emotional journey that that you see in the scriptures. There's times of victory and there's times of sorrow and there's times of crying out and there's times of declaration. So it's a little bit of, you're trying to make a well-rounded meal so that it's not all chicken strips and french fries, but something familiar and then also stuff that's unanticipated. And you're trying to build a small team that that's familiar with what you're doing, that knows the language,
Hmm.
then um, figure out how we can all lead that experience together. So go
What's it
ahead.
like being in the congregation or being in the church after being a worship pastor?
Sure. Yeah. No, it's fun. It's you know, it's definitely less stressful. There's you just coming and receiving. I still am helping out different places. I'm subbing in and I'm traveling a little bit here and
Yeah.
there, so I'm still active. But yeah, I love to come and receive. I feel like uh, it's like going through the car wash of your soul. It's like, okay, hit me with this, hit me with that. There's like a flushing, and I feel like like new ideas come to my soul as I'm being refreshed. New ideas or thoughts, or like, oh, you know what? I left this undone. I had this conversation and I didn't follow through with what I spoke about. Like
Hmm.
a remembering, a restoring that happens in my soul when I just receive in worship and I'm in the middle of the congregation. My imagination's activated and I'm calling to mind things that matter.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Well, wrap this up, man. If you want to share a little bit about how you got involved in the Down syndrome community
yeah,
and how people can support your work there, and uh, just what would be best to for people listening to this to not only support you but also make a difference for some of the people that you're working with.
yeah. Yeah, this is our 11th year doing a family variety Christmas show um, for that highlights the talents and special abilities of those with Down syndrome. Um, we are at the Ent Center down at
Okay.
UCCS December 13th and 14th for 4 shows. We work on it all year long. We've recently developed an arts academy with a choir and instrumental classes and art, fine art, as well as performance classes to cultivate the voice and the expression and ultimately benefit the community at large with the gifts that people with special abilities bring. And yeah, helping our community see folks that learn differently in a new light, that they offer something that we don't have, and together we're brighter and healthier than we are apart. These families, we have about 60 families involved in the production. We meet every Saturday morning. The production's called Christmas This Year. You can go to christmasthisyear.org and grab your tickets or learn. The organization's called Friends of Club 21. And
I'll link that in the description of this podcast.
I just I love serving this community and bringing the gifts inside this group. It's some kind of fun facts. One in every 700 births is statistically has Down syndrome. Two out of every three uh, pregnancies that where Down syndrome is discovered in the U.S. is terminated. Um, so two out of every three pregnancies are terminated when Down syndrome is discovered. Uh, in Western or first world countries, it's even higher than it is here, 9 out of 10. And so there's a war to eliminate and to silence this population, and these families an incredible choice to give life a chance. And 40% of families that have a child with Down syndrome, one spouse has to quit working in order to keep up with the demands. It's very often health, heart conditions, health complications. Um, but these families have come together in a way that they've had to endure suffering and challenges. But the results of those sufferings and challenges is a gold in their hearts and in their relationships that I think is really worth sharing, and stories that are really worth telling. So that's where I find myself activated, just trying to tell and cultivate this community where folks with Down syndrome feel like they have a voice and they feel like they belong here and that they're accepted.
We first went to that your performance maybe 5 years ago or
Mm.
so, and I was trying to explain to my son, who was 5 or 6 at the time, what Down syndrome is, and I didn't do a very good job of it. But we were we were driving somewhere a couple weeks after the show, and we passed someone who was really really happy, just on the side of the road, or yeah, I can't remember the exact details, but we made and Mason, my son, goes, he must have Down syndrome. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, because people with Down syndrome are just really happy. And I was sitting there. It was just, it's one of those just watershed moments as a parent, where you're sitting there and your worldview, or the way that you perceive the world, is fundamentally changed, because you're now viewing it from the eyes of someone who's pure and innocent
Yeah.
and loves other people. And
Oh,
so that's what he got from your show,
so
was
beautiful,
that
man.
Down syndrome, people with Down syndrome are happy people.
That's right.
And that's front center, and it's
That's right.
obvious how incredible these people you work with are. So thank you for
Oh,
doing that, and
I feel like I'm the lucky one.
looking forward to it again this year, every year.
That's all so great.
Well, man, I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
There's at some point, I think it would be great to get back together and talk about parenting for a
Yeah,
while, and dig more into that. But
yeah.
it's great to see you again, man. I've
See you,
really
man.
appreciated getting to know you a
Absolutely.
little bit more today and get
Yeah,
a chance to talk.
thank you.